friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. Well, today I'm going to be making a chicken stir fry using the chicken of the woods that Mr. Rain and I collected yesterday when we went out foraging. So you can find a video on that right up here where I talk a little bit about the health benefits of chicken of the woods, and I show some pictures and stuff of what it looked like when we found it on the tree stumps. So I'm very excited because this is my very first time cooking with chicken of the woods, our first time harvesting, first time using it, and I'm just gonna wing it and experiment, and you get to come along for the ride. Now what I have here, this is the bowl of some of the chicken of the woods that I'd cut up. I have the rest on the dehydrator, but I think I'm only going to start with this much. I'm very, this is actually very dense, unlike a regular mushroom. We were surprised at how heavy the weight was bringing all of that home. So anyway, we've got that. So we've got some foraged food right here. I've got some onion from the garden. I've got some calendula flowers from the garden, and then I've got some garlic all chopped up. Half of this is from a friend of mine, some elephant garlic. Well, not half, probably more like 2/3 of this, and the other third is homegrown garlic I just dug up today. Part of one of my own zucchinis this time. This is the other part of it, and 2 serrano peppers from the garden. And this mix of greens here is several different things, and I made sure to save a leaf of each out so that, because I know I wouldn't remember it all. So I got a couple of young grape leaves in there. I've got a couple of kale leaves, a couple of amaranth leaves, and a couple of borage leaves. And all that is going to go into my stir fry. So most of this stuff I've done before. The new thing to me is the actual chicken of the woods in replacing the chicken. And so what I'm going to start with is, this is a sesame oil I like to use anytime I'm wanting something with an Asian flair. Instead of using coconut oil or avocado oil like I normally would do, I switch to the sesame oil. And I love this stuff. I don't know if there's a better brand out there, but I originally bought one of these in the next town over, because it's the only place you can find that kind of stuff, and I love the fact that I could get a big can for a good price. Then a couple years later, I found I could get 2 cans on Amazon for a really good price, and it is it's over a quart. It's a quart and a pint. And so if it's still available on Amazon, I will link to this below. I really like it. It lasts for years and years. Sesame oil is one of those things that does handle high heat and has a pretty good shelf life, at least from my own experience. So I've already got it opened up, and I'm going to go ahead and pour a little bit of sesame. Whoa, I guess. It's okay. Love that sesame flavor. Into my pan. And that pan is looking like it might be too small for all of this stuff. But I'm going to go ahead and toss in my chicken of the woods, my onion, my garlic. We'll put in the serrano peppers and the zucchini. And then what I normally do is I put in a little bit of my homemade vinegar. Typically when I'm doing a stir fry and stuff, I like to use the raisin vinegar. And so I'm going to go ahead and pour a little bit of that in. And one thing that I'm really loving are these coconut aminos. They have a bit of a soy sauce taste, but not really. They're slightly different and not near as salty. So if you go to the coconut aminos, which I'll link to below, but I can almost guarantee you will find it for a better price if you have a health food store near you, maybe a Whole Foods or something like that. We don't have anything like that near us, because it's not cheap. But I will link to it below. I think the next time I buy it, I'm going to try buying by the whole gallon. Because after I bought that, I found out that I could get a whole gallon of it. But then again, I wanted to try it first anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and put all that in there. Some other ingredients I'm going to add are some red pepper flakes, even though I've got the serrano peppers in there. Like lots of spice. And because fresh ginger, I don't always have it on hand, and it's really expensive to buy around here, I do always keep a lot of organic ground ginger on hand, and so I'm going to be adding that in too. I'm just going to sprinkle it right over the top. And I'll be adding in, well, no, I'm going to go ahead and put my greens in there now. These I will put in last. So I'm going to go ahead and cook this on, I wanted to do it on the rocket stove, but it's just really hot outside and we've got a lot of solar power today. So I'm going to go ahead and cook it on my hot plate over here, and I'm going to get this started. And I'm turning the heat up to medium. And then in the meantime, what I'm going to do is go ahead and pull the rest of these petals off, because I don't want the center of the calendula in there. I just want the petals. Depending on whether or not this cooks down the way other mushrooms do, I may want to add more. That's why I set aside plenty for this, but we'll see what happens. This is all new to me, so we'll find out. Now I just thought of another addition that I sometimes add. Since I already have the sesame oil, you might want to consider sprinkling a little bit of sesame seeds. So I'll probably put in about that much, which is, looks like about a tablespoon, maybe a little bit more. So I'm going to sprinkle that in my pan over here. And let me get back to what else I want to show you. I've been debating back and forth whether or not I want to do a sweet and sour sauce with this. So I'm going to go ahead and cook it up a little bit and see how the mushrooms taste first and decide what I want to do. But in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and make a quick sweet and sour sauce to show you what you can do to add to that if you decide. The thing that's nice about using a sweet and sour sauce or something like it is that if you want to serve it over rice, it kind of gives you this nice saucy stir fry to put over your rice. Or you can serve it beside rice, or even with some kind of rice noodles or something like that. And remember, we are going for the more Asian flair with this. All right. Now, for my sweet and sour sauce, this is something I don't do very often. But typically what you're going to want to do is do like half vinegar and half some kind of sweet, like molasses, which I've done before, is really good. And I have a video on that I made after watching Stacy's video about a homemade soy sauce replacement. It doesn't taste like soy sauce. It tastes more like a teriyaki sauce. But anyway, I'll post that right up here. Or you can use honey, which is what I'm going to do in this batch. So you want to go about 1 part vinegar, and what I'm using today is my blueberry vinegar, even though I've already put the raisin vinegar in the stir fry. This is if I decide to use the soy sauce. It's going to depend on how that tastes. So since I've got a pretty small batch here, I'm going to start with just a half cup of the vinegar, and then I'm going to go 1/2 cup of the honey. I'm putting in a 1/2 cup of the honey. Okay? And it has crystallized a bit on me. It's a pretty good sized bucket. This is a Annie's raw honey, clover honey that is here in Washington State, so it's not as local as I'd like, but at least it's somewhat local. My very favorite honey is Glory Bee's raw blackberry honey. That is so good. I mean, that is, other than when I can get local, like truly local in this town from some friends who have bees, that is the best honey. Once you have your honey or your molasses all mixed in with your vinegar, you can add whatever flavorings you want, like garlic, ginger, etc., etc. But since I already have added that to my stir fry, you can hear it over there sizzling. All I'm going to add is my thickener. Okay, so for this amount, I'm gonna only use a tablespoon, and what I have here is tapioca starch. It's organic tapioca starch. I do not use cornstarch because it's really hard to find a good non-GMO organic cornstarch. However, tapioca starch or arrowroot powder will do the same thing for you, and it's easy to find a good organic of either one of those, non-GMO. So I'm going to link to what I use here. So there's my sauce, and then all I have to do is, once I decide if I am going to actually make a sweet and sour, once my stuff gets cooked through and I decide, okay, I like this, then I'm going to go ahead and pour the sauce over it and let it cook a little bit longer, and this will thicken up. But we'll get to that in a bit, assuming I do this, of course. Okay, so here are my vegetables and the chicken of the woods cooking in my little pan, and yes, it's packed full. I could have gone with a bigger size pan. This is just my very favorite pan to do stuff like this in. part of it is because it already has this nice wok type shape to it, very rounded sides. I found this at a garage sale, and the surface of it, I actually cleaned it really, really good and then re-seasoned it, but the surface on this is just like glass. I love it so much. So anyway, I'm just going to keep stirring this. I've got it on medium heat, and once things get mostly cooked but not mushy, I'm going to then probably go ahead and add that sweet and sour sauce since I made it, and then we'll serve it over the white rice. But I still have to add the calendula flowers here in a bit too. Okay, so I'll come back once this is to the point where I've tasted it and I feel good about it, and then I'll go ahead and add that sweet and sour sauce, because I think that's what I want to do. I still want to see what it tastes like this first. All right, so I'm back. I really didn't cook this that much longer, but I did taste it, a couple pieces of the chicken of the woods, and it is so good, and it does make you think of chicken. So my zucchini is already, as zucchini does, getting pretty soft, but the chicken of the woods is not cooking down like I thought it might do, but I had a feeling it wouldn't because of how dense and heavy it felt. It's not cooking down the way standard mushrooms do. So, but even so, I went ahead and added some more of it because I like the flavor of it so much. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and sprinkle in my calendula flowers. And even though I love the taste of this just like it is, since I went ahead and made that sweet and sour sauce, I'm going to go ahead and pour that over it. And I have plenty of chicken in the woods. I can make another dinner like this without the sweet and sour sauce. And that is just so you can see how easy this is to thicken up and make a nice sweet and sour chicken vegetable that you can serve over some rice noodles or rice, or whatever kind of noodles you would prefer. Some kind of Asian noodles would be just really good with this, which I don't typically have on hand, so usually it's just rice for us. And besides Mr. Rain, he prefers just plain white rice. So we'll let that cook and get nice and thick. All right, you see this right here? This is why a lot of times I just don't bother pulling it back, because it does not stay pulled back, and so I end up just wearing it like this. So excuse me for that. At any rate, while I'm waiting for that to thicken up, I wanted to talk a little bit about soy sauce and why it's a good idea to look for an alternative. Now, we do still use Bragg's liquid aminos, but I try to really, really limit it. It's the only soy product I allow in our house at all. And even then, I still try to back off. Now, if you're going to go with soy, that's probably the healthiest one you can find, and I do recommend it as far as it is a good brand. It is good stuff. However, it's still soy. So for those of you who have adrenal issues or low thyroid or certain other problems like that, you're going to really want to avoid soy. And that's why I stay away from soy as much as possible. That is why I changed our diet, to get us off the prescription medication that we've been off of for 5 years and go with something more healthy that's going to help keep our thyroid working for itself without the help of a synthetic medication. So the coconut aminos is one option. You can also just do simple things like, you know, doing more of a sweet and sour sauce, or if you don't want a sweet and sour sauce, you can do like I started with there, with just the homemade vinegar and a little bit of like the coconut aminos, or even to get away from something so expensive as that, just use a good healthy salt like Redmond real salt, which I a lot of times try to link to below, and I'll try to remember to do that in this video, or a Himalayan pink salt, or even Celtic sea salt. My sweet and sour chicken vegetable is done, and I tasted it, and it tastes pretty good. I found it was just a little sweeter than I wanted, and the sauce was a little thicker than I needed it to be, so I added a little bit more vinegar, and I realized it needs some salt. So what I've got going on here is some Himalayan pink salt, or pink Himalayan salt, however you want to say it. which I mention a lot. If you're going to use salt, stay away from white salt. White salt is bad for you and causes high blood pressure. But if you're using a good mineral-rich salt, like red mineral salt, which is my favorite, and I will link to below, or the Himalayan pink salt, or even the Celtic sea salt, it's actually going to help lower your blood pressure because of the high minerals that your body really needs. So look into that, and I think that's probably going to be really good. That was about a teaspoon, and you can see how much I have here. This is I think an 8-inch skillet, and so, oh, there's a piece. And that, you know what? Look at that. That actually looks like a piece of chicken. Here we go. I'm really anxious to call Mr. Rain in and serve this over some white rice, and we're going to have a pretty tasty dinner. So there's one of the things you can do, and this was my experiment, so thanks for coming along for the ride. And there's an idea for you to go out and try to forage some good mushrooms like chanterelles or the chicken of the woods, and do a stir fry or whatever else. Apparently you can use this in just about anything that you would normally use chicken in. Alright, hope you enjoyed this video and that you learned something new. Thanks for watching. Take care and God bless.